Hey there, this is Dane from featherprop.com. Thanks for tuning in with me here today. In my most recent video, I had made some references to the book of Enoch, specifically 1st Enoch, which has garnered some confusion. And so I thought I'd address that here today. Now, in that last video, I made a claim that 1st Enoch 71:14 states that the unknown author of Enoch revealed that he is the Messiah, the Son of Man. Since then, a number of people have reached out to me and indicated that they either have a copy of Enoch or they went online and found it, and what they discovered is that it doesn't match up with what I had shared in that video. So I thought I'd make this video to provide some clarification. One of the most well-known and popular translations of Enoch was by a man named R.H. Charles. In 1913, R.H. Charles produced a translation of Enoch into English. Although it appears that his original work is long out of print, his translation is still available today. But in any event, when R.H. Charles was translating 1st Enoch chapter 71 and verse 14, he rendered it differently than most recent translations do. It's well known to scholars in the field that Charles was not faithful to the original text, and R.H. Charles admitted that he wasn't. Charles rendered verse 14 something like, "And he answered and said unto me, This is the Son of Man who is born unto righteousness." Now, as you can see, this translation does not identify Enoch as the Son of Man, but as someone who saw the Son of Man, or at least someone else. More recent translations of that passage render it, as I had shared with you in my previous video, "You are the Son of Man." And so the question is, of course, which of these two renderings is correct? Well, if you do some research on this subject, and I would encourage you to do so, you should soon discover that while R.H. Charles' translation of 1st Enoch is generally reliable and popular, when it comes to the verse in question, Charles went a little astray. He knew that the text said, "You are the Son of Man," but apparently Charles was skeptical. It seems that he had believed that there must be a lost passage out there somewhere that identified the Son of Man as someone else. And so he purposely mistranslated the passage to reflect what he suspected was the truth. And not only did he mistranslate verse 14, but he had to change the pronouns in a few other places to reflect that theory of his. Now, of course, there have been no discoveries of lost passages that support what he did. And I don't think any present-day Enochian scholar supports his translation. However, this does not mean that what he did is not available in print, and that's why it's still out there and people are finding it. Now, I'm going to play a short clip here from an author and an apologist named David Wilbur, who has done some extensive research on this matter, who has been recognized for his study of biblical Greek, and who has been in debates regarding this very topic. You can find his work both on YouTube and at his website, and I'm going to go ahead and put links to all of that below. Please check him out. I find that Wilbur does an excellent job of concisely explaining the mistranslation by R.H. Charles. So let's turn it over to Mr. Wilbur.
So then, which translation is correct? Should the verse read, "You are the Son of Man," as the majority of English translations have it, or should it read, "This is the Son of Man," as R.H. Charles' translation has it? Well, as scholars point out, the actual text of 1st Enoch says, "You are the Son of Man." R.H. Charles' version is a known mistranslation. He intentionally amended the text of 1st Enoch 71:14 to reflect a third-person rendering rather than what the text actually says. By the way, R.H. Charles himself admits that he did this. In the footnotes of his translation, R.H. Charles admits that he amended the text, and he provides the correct translation and acknowledges that his rendering does not reflect what the actual text says. Of course, scholars have widely criticized R.H. Charles' treatment of the text here, as John Collins writes. Quote, "The solution of Charles was to amend 71:14 to read, 'This is the Son of Man,' and change 'you' to 'him' in the following verses. This procedure has no basis in the text and is clearly unacceptable." James Vanderkam and George Nicholsburg also remark, quote, "Charles could not imagine that this author would identify the Son of Man with Enoch. He claimed that a passage had dropped from the text that described the Son of Man accompanying the head of days and a conversation taking place place between Enoch and an angel. Verse 14b through 17, he supposed, are the remnant of the angel's description of the function of the Son of Man, which some scribe mistakenly applied to Enoch and transposed into the second person. Charles, in turn, changed the second person pronoun in verse 14b and all the second person pronominal suffixes in verses 14c through 16 into the third person. Charles's tour de force, however, has no foundation in the manuscripts and has been universally rejected by scholars.
So as you can see, there's no valid reason to believe the translation of 1 Enoch 71 and verse 14 by Charles is trustworthy. Charles admits as much. All the manuscript evidence clearly supports the conclusion that the writer of Enoch believed that he himself was the Son of Man, a figure that he says will sit on a throne of glory and that all the kings who rule the earth will worship. You know, let me add that I'm not saying you shouldn't read Enoch. If you want to read it, go ahead. Just do so, knowing what it is, an ancient piece of literature in which the author wasn't being honest about who he was and who preaches another gospel than what we have here in the New Testament. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you here next time.